everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome back, everybody. Today, we are going to be ranking my top 5 favorite movies that I watched for the very first time in the year 2025. So if you find yourself having nobody to talk to about all of the beautiful first-time watches that you had in 2025 and just wanting to find yourself expressing that love for seeing a movie for the first time, but nobody's going to listen to you, well, you have me now. We have each other to discuss all of our favorite first-time watches because that is exactly what we're going to be doing today. So in the year 2025, if my Letterboxd account is accurate here, I had watched about 56 movies that I had never seen in my life up until last year. So from those 56 movies, this ranking list really isn't going to be in any particular order. I just chose 5 of my absolute favorite movies that I had experienced for the very first time last year. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the ranking list. Starting with number 5 for first time watches, we got the movie They Live. Now, this is one of these movies that I had discovered this year. Obviously, I had always heard about this John Carpenter's movie, but only ever really seen, movies like Halloween or The Thing, and I feel like They Live is one of those movies a lot of people are familiar with, but maybe haven't checked out, or I feel like doesn't get the recognition that movies like Halloween and The Thing get. But I really do think this movie should be right up there with those two for masterpieces for John Carpenter. It is one of those movies that I just became obsessed with. I found this really cool limited edition steelbook from Walmart or something, and I just sat down, watched it, absolutely loved it, showed my dad the movie. He had never seen it, absolutely loved it, watched it again. I had watched this movie like 3 or 4 times within a month and found myself enjoying it more and more the more I watched it. I think it's a simple but brilliant sci-fi premise wrapped up in this cheesy 80s campy movie that I think fits super, super well with the movie. I feel like this movie is like an action version of the book 1984, also blending in there the movie Falling Down and The Matrix before The Matrix existed. It is told in a straightforward way, but has this over-the-top sci-fi concept. I think John Carpenter's score and atmosphere really lift this movie up and make it memorable. I feel like he blends this synth and bass theme that feels like you're watching some futuristic Western movie that I adore so much. It's like a modern cowboy drifting through a corrupt capitalistic society. And I love all the small, interesting details in here, even small background details like the news reporting about food stamps being frozen and accounts being frozen. I feel like hit way harder on rewatch when you pick up on some of those details and really flesh out the world and really make it seem like more of a commentary that still fits today, even though the movie was made over 40 years ago. I did cover this movie earlier on the channel, so if you're interested, definitely check it out. And it inspired me so much, I made this cool little short that you could check out if you look at that video. But what really stuck out to me is the simple black and white truth visuals that are so iconic and unsettling. Even if you've never seen the movie, you've probably seen screenshots from the movie. And I like how it's very simple with propaganda slogans like obey and consume plastered everywhere. It sells the idea that once you kind of see the truth, you can never go and unsee it. And I like how it drives our main character a little bit insane with getting exposed to the truth and then having to convince everyone else around him what he just experienced and saw. I think there's so many memorable scenes, not only with the glasses scene, seeing the aliens hidden among us, but that alley fight scene is one of my favorite scenes I've seen in any movie. It's this absurdly long fist fight that is hilarious but brutal at the same time. It shows 2 working class citizens, one of of our main characters and then one of the buddies that he teams up with. And instead of focusing on the real enemy, they're fighting each other. So I feel like it's this perfect representation of society and what we're doing to each other today, and how the overlords are kind of pinning us against each other. But John Carpenter shows it in this simple fight scene that says so much, but then if you just take it on surface level, it's just a really well choreographed fight scene as well. I do have some trouble or concerns with the ending and its overuse of exposition that feels a little convenient, but once you kind of look past that, I feel like I love the descent into this underground facility that feels like a nightmare sci-fi version of The Shining, complete with its elite people in the society dining and discussing on how to sell out humanity. And I feel like it all leads to a perfect sacrifice at the end, blowing the signal and then exposing the truth to everybody. I feel like this ending works because it's bold, blunt, and perfectly aligns with John Carpenter's angry, anti-authority vision he was probably going with the movie and has explored in some of his other movies as well. So I absolutely love the movie They Live. It is one that I'm going to be rewatching from here on out in my life. So if you've never seen it, definitely check it out. Number 5 for first time watches, we got They Live. But coming in at number 4 for first time watches, we got the movie There's Something About Mary. This was definitely an unexpected surprise for me because I had always heard about this movie. It was sitting in my watch list in Letterboxd for quite some time. I just never expected it to be this funny. I assumed it would be some cheesy, stereotypical 90s rom-com movie, and it definitely is, but the humor holds up so well, and it's perfect because we don't get a lot of well-done comedies like this anymore. I feel like Ben Stiller and especially Matt Dillon do an incredible job in their performances. I love the simple setup of Ben Stiller's character asking this girl to prom and has this terrible life-altering accident in her bathroom as he picks her up for the dance of getting his nuts stuck in his suit pants zipper, and then having the girl's parents come in, try to help him, the neighbors come in, try to help him, the yard workers come in, try to help him, the police show up. It is absolutely hilarious, and then that scene leads to him going to the hospital and then missing out on this night with this girl that could have changed both of their lives forever. And Ben Stiller's character kind of goes throughout his life. We follow up with him 25 years later, kind of just still wondering about that night, wondering what his life could have been if he was able to go to that dance with Mary. And I feel like it taps into that universal fear of people regretting decisions from their early high school or college life, and maybe having regrets of never asking that girl out and just wondering what their life could have been. And this takes a very funny look at that horrifying situation. And I love where the story goes on from there, with Ben Stiller hiring the sketchy private investigator in Matt Dillon's character, and he hires him to track her down, and then chaos ensues from there, to the point where there are so many memorable, funny, standout scenes in this movie that all center around all these different wild characters of pretending to be different people just because they're so obsessed with this character of Mary, who is portrayed by Cameron Diaz. I love Matt Dillon in the movie. He completely changes his life, gives up everything after he's hired to find Mary just to try and be with her. There's also a character in here that pretends to have cerebral palsy just to gain sympathy from her, and then at the end, fucking Brett Favre shows up, which was just something I was not expecting, just growing up loving the NFL and watching the later half of his career, being like, oh my god, is that fucking Brett Favre? The piece of shit. I think he's like a Medicaid scammer now, so he's funny in the movie. I liked his cameo, and I keep talking about it, but Matt Dillon playing this incredibly slimy douchebag is absolutely hilarious. He sells it so well. That dog scene when he gives Mary's friend's dog the sleeping pills or Xanax or something, and then he gives the dog too much and the dog overdoses, and Matt Dillon's in there trying to revive it. I feel like it's some of the best physical comedy that really landed well for me. I think the inciting nut incident is hilarious. Cameron Diaz putting semen in her hair, thinking it's hair gel, is another example of perfect gross out humor that pushes it enough but isn't too much where it becomes unfunny. It's the perfect blend. And at the end, I just kind of enjoy the story here. It does get a little creepy with all these dudes and how far they go to try and get with Mary, and it's a little convenient how she ends up with Ben Stiller in the end, even though you know as soon as you start the movie that's how it's going to end. So I'm fine with it playing out that way because at the end of the day it still works for me, and it creates this 2-hour movie that is consistently funny throughout that makes you want to keep watching it and go back to it. So I really found myself enjoying this on my first time watch. Coming in at my number 4, we got the movie There's Something About Mary. But coming in at number 3, we got the movie Honora. And I actually didn't watch this movie until January, February of last year, right after the award season. I missed it in theaters, so I watched it after it won Best Picture. However, when I watched it for the first time, it easily turned into one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And I think a big portion of that is when I watched it, the story, everything it was talking about really hit me at a specific point in my life from earlier last year. I love the story of Honora falling in love with this guy and falling in love with the spontaneity and the fun of the relationship, almost to the point creating this false image of this guy, making him seem like a more perfect guy than he ever anticipated or was maybe trying to do. Build up this image to convince herself this relationship is something that it's really not. And for all of that to just kind of crumble down around her as she figures out the relationship wasn't what she thought it was. Again, just that story in and of itself really hit me at a time where I was going through something, and it just made me emotional watching this character go through something like this. And I feel like it's another great example of a twist in a movie that recontextualizes the entire first half of the movie and flips its story, characters, and character motivations right on its head. And to me, I just got so connected with the characters, gained a lot of sympathy for the character of Honora, and it was just so heartbreaking seeing Honora fall in love with this guy and promise her a different life that she has always wanted, just for the twist to happen and for her to realize that this character has probably done this a million times to other girls, and he's really this immature, privileged loser that really treated this like a normal week-long fling. Like this wasn't even something like pivotal to him, but it was life-changing for Honora. And those two different perspectives and complexities in that relationship really hit hard for me. I think this movie is hilarious, one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, intense, impactful, and really kind of reminded me of a romance crime movie mixed with uncut gems and good time. Like that style of anxiety and pacing mixed with this romance movie, and I think those two blend super well here. And specifically with this movie, the ending is something that just really stuck with me and is something I still think about, where Honora leaves off on this better place because she realizes she doesn't need this specific guy anymore and has to start going through this heartbreak, but she's in a spot so damaged and unclear of how to navigate relationships that because of her work that she's in, her stripper business she's in, her sex work business that she's in, she still sees relationships as just transactional. And it leaves you off on this bittersweet ending because this untraditional love story leaves her with a better guy that she should have always ended up with the character of Igor, who's another standout in here, and he fell in love with her because of the person that she is and not what she could offer to him, but she is still so unclear on how to navigate these relationships and leaves off on this emotional scene in the car of them two fucking in the car, and then as Honora realizes what she's doing, and she just breaks down, and that's how the movie leaves off. So absolutely love the ending, because Honora's in a better place and going to be in a better place, but it is so hard, emotional, and difficult for her at that exact point that we leave off on. I think it's a perfect 2.5-hour movie that has some of the best pacing I've ever experienced in a movie. Super easy to rewatch because it has so many terrific performances, a great score, and so many standout sequences that I love talking about this movie. I love watching it, even though it's such an emotional roller coaster for me. But I'm so happy it won Best Picture. I don't think it's overrated. I hate when a movie wins Best Picture and then everyone starts just shitting on it out of nowhere. This is a great movie. If you missed it last year, check it out. You might really like it, because coming in at number 3, we got Honora. But coming in at number 2, we got the movie From Dusk Till Dawn. And honestly, similar to the movie They Live, this was always a movie that I had heard about and knew I'd probably enjoy. And after watching it, I can't believe I'd never seen this movie before, because it is definitely a blast. It has some issues and concerns for me. I'm not the biggest fan of the family side plot that Tarantino and George Clooney run into, and felt like it was a little unnecessary and maybe spent a little bit too much time with those characters. However, despite that issue, I think overall this is such a fun vampire movie wrapped up in this crime thriller, very similar to obviously movies like Pulp Fiction, and it really does just feel like Pulp Fiction with vampires in the third act. I love following these slimy, despicable characters that Tarantino writes so well, and they're despicable but also likable at the same time thanks to the script and the performances. And I love the simple story of these two crime guys getting wrapped up into some crime that is bigger than they originally thought it was, and the bigger thing waiting for them is vampires at a titty bar. So I love how serious this movie takes itself, but then goes bonkers in its third act, very similar to the movie The Descent that I was talking about in my last video. And they find a way to kind of make these two tones and two different subgenres blend so perfectly into each other. I think once we get to that third act, that definitely when the movie hits its peak. I love the practical effects, creature design, the gore, and pure grindhouse fun this movie really gives you. And I feel like that titty twister bar at the end is such a strong, memorable location that it just kind of becomes iconic. And the rotating group of survivors keeps the pacing tight and unpredictable. Characters you expect to last don't really, and characters you write off in the beginning, like some of the family characters, kind of step up, which keeps that insanity going and the pacing in the back half for a great experience. This is just a fun movie. If you like crime, if you like horror, and if you like vampire movies, this blends them perfectly into each other, and it's just such an easy movie to rewatch. I've already rewatched it this year, but it was a first time watch this year. So coming in at number 2, we got From Dusk Till Dawn. And again, no particular order, just 5 of my favorite first-time watches here. But number 1, we got the movie Summer of '84. Now, similar to They Live and From Dusk Till Dawn, this was a movie I had kept hearing about on YouTube and Reddit, but never read too much into it because all anybody said is just go into it blind. It seems like it's going to be one thing and then turns into another thing towards the end of the movie. And I'm so happy that I went into this movie as blind as possible because this is such a fun 80s throwback thriller adventure. It almost mixes up, obviously, Stranger Things, The Sandlot, The Goonies, and 80s movies and adventures like that, and then blends it into this serious, dark, gnarly thriller made out of a family's literal worst nightmare of missing children. I love how this movie follows such a straightforward plot of these group of kids growing up in the 80s and having the suspicion that their neighbor is actually the one that is abducting and killing these kids that have gone missing in their town. town, but nobody believes them, so they make it a part of their summer adventure to try and prove their theory correct. And what sets this movie up from being very different compared to similar types of movies or TV shows is its ending, because once the characters prove that they're right, there's no real twist in that. They predict one guy and it is that guy, but what they do in the ending really makes this movie so special. After the boys discover, I believe the police officer's name is Mackie, after they discover Mackie's crimes and finding the bodies in the house, Mackie actually kidnaps Davy and Woody, taking them to this killer, sketchy island that he knows about. From there, Mackie makes the boys go into this deadly game of manhunt, injuring Davy and then brutally murdering Woody right in front of Davy. And the twist is that Mackie saves Davy, or I guess spares him, and telling him that he wants Davy to suffer by constantly looking over his shoulder, never knowing when he's going to return after just brutally killing his friend right in front of him. And Davy's just left released with being rescued but deeply traumatized. His friends move away and he's left delivering papers as we get this final shot of him passing Mackie's house, which is now a crime scene, with a headline showing that Mackie is still missing. So I love the ending, how it leaves off with Davy. Obviously, all his innocence is gone, trapped into the realization that the serial killer is still out for him, haunting his entire life. So it's one of those movies that perfectly wraps up everything, but leaves such ambiguous ending that it still feels satisfying, but then makes the movie's legacy and makes the movie live on in your mind so much longer. So adore this movie. I pray to God they don't ever make a sequel, because I feel like it would just kind of ruin its impactful ending, giving any sort of closure to what's been going on. So if you've never seen it, I just spoiled it for you. I'm sorry, but still check it out. My number one first time watch here of 2025 is Summer of 84. That's about it. That's my list here. Like I said, watched about 56 brand new first time watches for me. So please, down below, let me know what you think of my list. Are there any that you're going to check out after watching this video? Please let me know. I'd love to hear all your thoughts and feelings. And down below, let me know what was a movie that you've been holding off for quite a while and discovered this past year, or a movie that you just decided to check out and absolutely loved and became one of your favorite first time watches for the year of 2025. Let me know all that information down below. That's about it. This is wrapping up my 2025 end of the year ranking videos, and from here on we are going to be discussing 2026 movies from here on out. So hope you guys had a great 2025, and I hope 2026 is a little bit better for you. I appreciate anybody watching my videos. It means so much to me, so thanks again. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.